hovercraft engine exploded to life, a deafening blast that shook porch windows and sent beach sand swirling into the sky. Neighbors rushed out instantly, filming, whispering, backing away as my driveway turned into a launch pad. And there she was, Carla Briggs, our HOA president, planted at the barricaded beach road, with her laminated bylaws raised like a holy relic, screaming words no one could hear over the roar. I eased the throttle, the skirt inflated. The machine lifted, hovering, growling alive. Carla's eyes widened, the crowd held its breath, and I aimed straight at the chain she swore no one would ever cross. But, right as the hovercraft surged forward, I saw something behind the barricade that changed everything. Carla Briggs didn't just run the Coral Dunes HOA, she colonized it. Most neighborhoods have a president. We had a self-appointed monarch with a visor, a clipboard, and the kind of smile you only see on people who genuinely enjoy denying permit requests. Her reign began with tiny things. A warning about my improperly enthusiastic porch lights. A citation from my neighbor Leo because his garden gnome exhibited unauthorized whimsy. She once measured a palm frond with a tape measure, shook her head like it personally offended her, then issued a written reprimand to the tree's owner. But the moment Carla truly revealed who she was happened last month. Old Mr. Halpern collapsed while walking his dog. The lifeguards tried to drive their ATV down the beach access road to reach him faster, but Carla intercepted them, arms crossed, chin high. Emergency access requires prior scheduling, she insisted. They went around her anyway. Halpern made it. Carla spent the next week filing complaints about reckless rescue conduct. That's when I realized something. Carla didn't care about safety. She cared about control rules bent around her like gravity. And once she noticed I was the one person who publicly rolled my eyes at her laminated tyranny, she set her sights on me. Closing the beach road wasn't about ecology. It was her opening move. I moved to Coral Dunes for the same reason everyone else did: the water. The sound of waves in the morning, the salt in the air, the feeling that the rest of the world was rushing somewhere, while our little town moved at the speed of a slow tide. My days ran like clockwork. Wake up, coffee on the porch, check the surf, walk the dog, and if the universe was kind, swing by the sandbar for their 2-for-1 breakfast tacos. And at the center of it all was Pelican Cut, the narrow sandy access road that lifeguards, fishermen, and old-timers used every day. It wasn't fancy, just a rutted path lined with sea oats, but it was part of the rhythm of life here. Kids dragged their boards down it. Turtle volunteers checked nests along it. And when things went wrong on the beach, that was where rescue teams came barreling through. It was common sense. It was tradition. It was how this town breathed. So, when Carla Briggs, a woman whose greatest emergency was once a crooked mailbox, decided Pelican Cut was suddenly a threat to ecological harmony, everything shifted. The first time I saw the chain across the road, I thought it was a prank. Heavy links, new posts, laminated signs flapping like angry little flags. It felt like someone had drawn a hard line through our shared backyard. The mood in the neighborhood changed instantly. Regulars at the sandbar complained they couldn't get their kayaks down to the quiet cove. Mr. Dawson, who volunteered Turtle Patrol for 15 years, had to walk an extra half-mile carrying equipment he could barely lift. Even the lifeguards were forced to take the long route, adding 10 wasted minutes to every call. And through it all, Carla doubled down, measuring, patrolling, lecturing anyone who questioned her. Every conversation circled back to the same maddening conclusion. She didn't have to give a reason. She had a bylaw. But the final crack in the piece came when she started putting names on warning signs, including mine. Seeing my own name printed under final notice told me exactly what Carla thought Coral Dunes should be and who she thought should run it. And that's when an idea wild and ridiculous began forming in the back of my mind. If Carla could block the land, what if I just didn't use land? The morning after the first confrontation, I found a bright orange slip tucked under my doormat. Notice of potential non-compliance. Potential. She couldn't even accuse me of anything specific, just wanted me to know she was thinking about it. An hour later, S texted me a picture from the HOA Facebook group. Carla had posted a reminder about residents attempting to undermine ecological protections, accompanied by a stock photo of footsteps in sand that definitely wasn't from our beach. Everywhere I walked, I felt eyes on me because they were. Carla had begun her patrol schedule, which meant slow walking past my house every afternoon with her clipboard angled like she was capturing evidence. Then came the envelope, my name printed neatly. Inside, no letter, no greeting, just a single laminated card that read, "Please review AOA, expectations for community-minded behavior." No signature, no explanation, just the cold bureaucratic equivalent of breathing down my neck. And it became clear she wasn't warning the neighborhood. She was warning me. 2 days later, I caught her on my property, not accidentally wandering too close, not turning around in my driveway. Actually, on my lawn, crouched low, measuring tape stretched across the grass like she was surveying a crime scene. 20 1/4 inches, she muttered, scribbling it down. I stepped outside. Morning, Carla. Cataloging blades of grass today. She didn't even flinch. Ensuring compliance. She snapped a picture of my mailbox next, then my porch railing, then bizarrely my recycling bin. Patterns of negligence often correlate across multiple domains, she said, as if reciting scripture. Neighbors began whispering. A few told me she'd been asking questions about me, how often I walked near Pelican Cut, whether I had a history of defiance. She even posted on Facebook again, writing, "Some residents believe the rules do not apply to them. They will soon learn otherwise." And then came the sign. A new laminated masterpiece zip-tied to the Pelican Cut barricade. Unauthorized individuals seen accessing this area include Jacob Turner. Violations will be logged. She'd escalated from rules to targeting me publicly. The next weekend, disaster struck, real disaster, not the kind Carla invented. Old Man Henderson tried backing his rusty pickup close enough to unload gear without stepping over her chain. The tire hit something sharp, one of Carla's hidden metal stakes, and blew out with a loud pop. The truck sagged sideways, wedging itself partially across what little walking space remained. He was stuck, literally, and Carla used the moment to scold him like a child caught climbing the pantry. Unauthorized vehicular staging is prohibited, she lectured, waving diagrams she'd printed. And flat tires attract pests which violate health guidelines, Section 5, 3B. The poor man could barely stand long enough to argue. Meanwhile, down on the beach, the drifting unicorn incident played out, a massive inflatable slipping further out while its crying owners begged Carla to allow a lifeguard ATV through Pelican Cut. Use the public access, she insisted. This area is closed for ecological recovery. Ecology. The only thing endangered was common sense. When I walked up to read the barricade signs again there, it was a new, larger metal plate. Final warning. Further non-compliant behavior by Jacob Turner will result in HOA action. My name, in metal. She wasn't just enforcing rules. She was coming after me personally and putting people at risk to do it. That was the moment I realized I needed outside intel. Not legal advice, survival strategy. I found Officer Miller at the diner halfway through a donut that deserved better timing. So I began casually, hypothetically, if someone had a vehicle that floats on air. He put the donut down. Jacob. What did Carla do? Now I laid it out carefully, the blocked rescue road, the new signs, the escalating nonsense. Then came the question I'd been circling for days. If a person launched a registered watercraft from private property, and it happened to hover over land temporarily, is that illegal? Miller stared at me like he was solving a riddle and regretting it. As long as it's on state waters registered properly and you're not endangering anyone, HOA can fine you, but they can't arrest you. It's civil, not criminal. I felt hope crack open inside my chest, but Miller leaned closer. Just, don't make the news, okay? My wife watches those Florida Man segments. I nodded solemnly already, knowing I absolutely could not keep that promise. The seed of an idea had been growing for days, but now it sprouted into full-blown madness. A hovercraft. Not theoretical, not a meme. A real functioning air-cushioned middle finger to Carla Briggs. Late-night searches led me to Gator Glenn, a man whose online listing showed him fixing an engine shirtless, while an alligator lounged behind him like a pet cat. His hovercraft, a faded camo beast with mismatched parts, looked perfect. After a sketchy test drive that involved nearly mowing down a flock of ibises, I handed him cash and arranged a 3 a.m. delivery. Sneaking it into my garage was a nightmare. My nephew Ryan and his friends pushed while I whispered quietly every 3 seconds. Just as we got it behind the tarp, Carla appeared on her dawn patrol visor, shining flashlight slicing across my lawn. I dove into a hibiscus bush. She paused, scanned the driveway, then moved on. We waited 5 minutes before anyone breathed. The next morning, Carla unveiled her latest masterpiece. New planters, filled with concrete, larger chain, and a sign professionally printed this time. Pelican Cut closed, no exceptions. But then Saturday came, chaos everywhere, the unicorn drifting Henderson, stranded neighbors angry. And standing in my garage beside the hovercraft, hearing the crowd rising outside, I knew this was the moment. I wasn't just crossing her line. I was going to fly over it. By the time I stepped onto my driveway, a crowd had already formed, neighbors drifting away from Henderson's stranded truck and the drifting unicorn crisis to gather around my garage like they sensed a storm coming. Phones lifted, whispering spread. Even the poodles stopped yapping. I grabbed the rope hanging from the garage door, took a breath and yanked it open. Gasps. Someone whispered, "No way." There she sat, the hovercraft camo-patterned, patched together, rumbling with promise. And 30 yards away at her barricade, Carla Briggs finally noticed the noise. Her head jerked up mid-lecture, sunglasses, crooked mouth half open, as if the universe had delivered her a personalized nightmare. "Jacob Turner," she shouted, marching toward me with the precision of a malfunctioning Roomba. "This is an unauthorized vehicle. You will stand down immediately." I didn't. I put on my aviators. Carla picked up speed. "If you start that machine, you'll be fined, cited, expelled from this community if necessary." But the neighbors had already shifted toward me. People who'd been quiet for months. People Carla had stepped on. People who wanted their beach back. For the first time, she didn't have a crowd. I did. I turned the key. The engine roared. The hovercraft thundered awake, sand swirling skirts, inflating the whole street, vibrating. Carla stumbled backward, clutching her clipboard like a life raft. Ryan, my nephew, had his phone raised high. Live stream on. Comments exploding across the screen. S called out, "Get this angle. Make sure you get the sign with Jacob's name on it." Neighbors began shouting over the engine. "You blocked rescue access. My kids can't reach surf lessons. Turtle Patrol lost 10 minutes last night. You almost made Henderson fall trying to climb around your planters." Every grievance she'd buried under bylaws poured out. And the live stream caught all of it. Her protests, her denials, the way she tried to shout over people telling real stories. Carla's voice cracked. "This is a misinterpretation of procedural authority." And this, I yelled back, gripping the controls, "is me not waiting 3 months for your next meeting." The hovercraft lifted higher, an angry beast rising. The neighbors cheered. Even the unicorn parents waved frantically, desperate for someone to help. Carla held up her clipboard like she could block an aircraft. "Stop in the name of I," shoved the throttle forward. The live stream's comments exploded. "He's gonna do it." The hovercraft surged toward the barricade, straight at Carla's masterpiece of concrete-filled planters and heavy steel chain. Carla froze, visor trembling in the prop blast. For a split second, I wondered if I'd misjudged the lift, if I'd land on the planters, if the chain would snag the skirt, if this would all end in a very embarrassing obituary. Then whoosh, we cleared it. The hovercraft glided over the chain, over the planters, over Carla's handwritten supplemental warning sign. The prop wash slammed into her, flipping her visor backward, launching her clipboard into a hibiscus bush, and sending her stumbling like she'd been hit by a blast of pure karma. The beach erupted. People cheered. Kids screamed with joy. Henderson yelled something that might have been Flyboy. I swung the hovercraft around, skimmed the shallows, and stopped near the drifting unicorn so the parents could retrieve it. The lifeguards offered a salute from afar. By the time I circled back to shore, Ryan's live stream had hundreds of thousands of views. News outlets were calling. Comments flew faster than I could read them. And that afternoon, while I was still hosing sand off the hovercraft, the HOA board held an emergency meeting. A real one, with real votes. The verdict: Carla removed as president, effective immediately. Pelican Cut reopened that same evening. And the woman who once wielded laminated bylaws like divine tablets now had to walk past neighbors whose cheers they couldn't take back. For once, Carla couldn't control the narrative. The internet already had. When Pelican Cut reopened, it felt like someone lifted a weight off the entire town. The next morning, I stood on the sand with a cup of coffee, watching the early sun spread gold over the water. The barricade was gone, no chains, no signs, no planters filled with hardware store concrete. Just open sand the way it had been for decades. Neighbors approached in drifting waves, claps on the back, handshakes, a few hugs that went on a little too long. S wandered over with 2 breakfast tacos from the sandbar, handing me one with a grin. "You realize you're a local myth now, right?" he said. "Folks at the bar last night were arguing over what to name the hovercraft statue they want to put on the pier." I laughed. "They better not make it life-size. Carla would faint." "Oh, Carla fainted twice yesterday already," he replied. "Rumor is she tried to convince the board that your video was digitally manipulated slander." Phones kept buzzing. People I'd barely met were stopping me at the grocery store, the hardware store, even at the gas station. The Salty Gull put up a chalkboard sign, "Try." Our new tacos, the hover and heat wave, now with extra kick. Tourists asked for photos. Kids ran up yelling, "Do the hover noise." Mr. Turner and I'd humor them with a deep, vibrating rumble that made them shriek with laughter. It was surreal. chaotic, and weirdly, healing. For months, everyone had walked on eggshells around an HOA president who acted like she owned the coastline. Now, people walked lighter, talked louder, smiled more. Pelican Cut wasn't just a road again, it was ours again. Carla's downfall wasn't just social, it was official. According to the HOA secretary, who pulled me aside at the mailbox like she was leaking state secrets, the board meeting after the hovercraft incident was the loudest and most unanimous vote in HOA history. Carla was removed from presidency, stripped of treasurer duties, and gently encouraged to take a long, restorative sabbatical. I asked what that meant. The secretary whispered, "It means she lawyered up before someone else could." Liability was the real nail in the coffin. Blocking an emergency access road wasn't just annoying, it was dangerous. The board's attorney spelled it out: if someone had been hurt or rescue delayed, the HOA could have been sued into dust. Carla had exposed them to massive risk, and the hovercraft video blasting her visor into orbit was Exhibit A of overreach in action. By Thursday, the HOA posted a polished statement. Pelican Cut will remain permanently open for emergency and resident access under newly clarified community guidelines. Translation: no more chains, no more planters, no more Carla's personal empire. They even installed a small official sign that read, Pelican Cut Beach Rescue and Community Access. Every time I walked past it, I felt a little jolt of pride. As for the hovercraft City Hall inspected, it scratched their heads and finally stamped it as a registered recreational vessel with permitted transitional land movement, which is government speak for, we don't know what this thing is, but we're not fighting it. About a week after everything settled, I took the hovercraft out for a gentle sunset skim across the canal. Kids on paddleboards waved. A couple visiting from Ohio asked if I rented rides. Henderson, sitting on a bucket with his fishing rod, raised a beer in silent salute. Life had found its rhythm again. The good kind. The karma twist arrived the following morning. A news producer emailed me subject line, Hovercraft. Hero of Coral Duna's interview request. Apparently, the hovercraft clip hadn't just gone viral. It was now being pitched as part of a documentary series on ordinary Americans standing up to extraordinary nonsense. They wanted an interview, footage, maybe a reenactment. I stared at the screen, laughing so hard, Buster the dog trotted over to make sure I wasn't dying. The world had enough problems, but somewhere out there, people were cheering because one stubborn HOA president finally met a man with an engine, a fan, and a total disregard for laminated authority. That evening, S and I walked down Pelican Cut with a cooler and a couple of rods. The breeze was calm. The road was open. The neighborhood was peaceful in the honest, earned sort of way. S cracked open a beer. Think Carla's watching us from behind a curtain somewhere, probably, I said. Taking notes. Drafting bylaws for cloud formations. He snorted. So what now? What do you call this chapter of your life? I looked at the waves rolling in, steady and unbothered. When someone tries to wall off the world, I said, you don't fight with their rules. S raised an eyebrow. Yeah, you build something that goes right over them. We clinked bottles. The sun dipped lower, and Pelican Cut, finally free, glowed in the fading light, wide open for everyone again.